Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And tonight, mashallah, I have an amazing episode, amazing show tonight with Ammar Ansari.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, man? You doing okay?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you? First and foremost, mashallah, I want to say thank you so much, Ammar. And tonight we are going to be talking about the journey of Malaikah Foundation, as well as Mr. Ammar Ansari, a little about him, his background, his upbringing, and what he was able to accomplish at this young age, mashallah. And although there's many things that, there's many youngsters that I can invite, there's many things that we can talk about, what really I wanted to cover, and the reason for me inviting Ammar is because, mashallah, he's just 20 years old. At such a young age, he was able to accomplish and establish an organization that is already doing such great work, not just locally, but nationally as well. And subhanallah, I cannot be more proud of the work that he's doing. So just to learn where he gets the inspiration, what was the reason of him doing such work, and a little bit about his current activities and the projects that are going on. So Ammar, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, man. I'm tired, man. Too much schoolwork all over the place.
So you, with everything else, you go to school too?
School, Baba has me at work too. He wants me to work with him as well. So I spend some time at the office as much as I can. But
mashallah, where are you going to school?
University of Houston.
And what's your major?
I'm a psychology major, but I'm taking classes on the downtown campus. It's a little bit smaller, yeah.
Nice, mashallah. Great. So, how old are you? 20, right?
20, yes.
20, mashallah. And proud parents, Dr. Kashif Ansari and Dr. Ammar Ansari, mashallah. It really goes to show their tarbiyah, their upbringing at this young age. Youth and the youngsters are pretty much lost in whatever is it that they do. But subhanallah, to have someone at this young age and doing such great work, and inshallah we're going to get to all of that. First and foremost, tell me a little bit about your upbringing and a little bit about your tarbiyah, your parents, a little bit about your background.
I think when I'm asked about my parents, it's such a hard question to answer, only because my parents, they have a journey themselves, right? Their story is something so unique, and just as a matter of fact, today somebody had texted me and mentioned to me that after the event that we just recently had at your masjid, they were very intrigued by the story that my father had given in regard to his life, right, regarding Sana. And because of that, it's moments like these where I look at them and I look at them as human beings. Right. I think the way that they've raised me, the way that they've been able to try to tell me what's right and what's wrong, it took me a minute to really understand that. And I think the most beautiful part about particularly my mother, I'll talk to you about her in specific, is that she's a PhD in molecular biology from McGill University, which is one of the most prestigious universities in all of Canada. And I'm sure you've heard of their Islamic program as well. Yes. But aside from that, she received a PhD and was the only student of her batch during the years she was in that college to be able to skip her master's because her grades were just so good. The professor had allowed her to skip her master's and go directly into her PhD. Wow. Exactly. And so mashallah, she was in the news for that as well. But when she had gotten married to my father, it was a journey in trying to produce a child, because my mother had had many failed pregnancies, and my father was struggling after moving from Pakistan to America and trying to pass his USMLE, and it was a tough time for them. About 10 to 12 years within their marriage where they were not able to be able to have a family, right? And because of that, when they look at me when I was born, and with the deficiencies I was born as well, with my hearing.
You were the first child?
Yes, I was the first child, and after that, to them, I was like almost, I don't like to put myself on that pedestal, but it's like to them I was very, very important, right? Because they're like, finally what we had prayed for, it's in front of us. So
Alhamdulillah.
I think the level of care, the level of devotion that I've just seen in them, in just trying to make sure I'm doing the right thing in the right places with the right people. It's very rare in the community that I've seen around me, because I've seen very disconnected parents as well.
Right. So you're the first child or the oldest?
I'm
right
the
now?
first and the oldest as well.
MashaAllah,
Yes,
MashaAllah.
alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your father, Dr. Kashif Ansari.
Baba's he's an interesting guy. I think there's a lot you can say about him. I can sit here for hours and tell you how much I admire him. I can sit here for hours and tell you how much he frustrates me as well, only because it's just the way he is. It's just, I think he truly is one of one. I think both my parents are one of one. I have yet to see anybody in the entire world that has come anywhere near who my mother is. I have yet to see anybody in the entire world that has come anywhere near who my father is. And the devotion and the commitment that I see in my father to making sure that my life, everything he does, is for my stability, making sure my life is okay. And mashallah, I think if it wasn't for him, of course I wouldn't be the man I am today. If it wasn't for the love and the care my mother has provided for me, I wouldn't be where I am today. But when it comes to my father, I think he is my one and true hero. I think he's my inspiration. Malaikah, any of this, none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for his guidance. And he, whenever he looks at me and he talks to me, he thinks of me as his pride. And anywhere he'll go, he always tells everybody that Ammar is not just my eldest, he's the pride of my heart. And that's something that I hold very close to me, and I don't think anybody believes in me the way he does, and of course my mother believes in me as well, but I think he's the one who pushes me, and I'll do the best I can, and even then there's always something wrong with it. But I know in the back of his mind that if I'm trying and he's seeing it, I hope I'm making him happy.
Alhamdulillah. I'm sure you are, and mashallah, I speak to and I've spoken to your father many times, and subhanallah, you can just tell that how proud he is of you, alhamdulillah, and your mother as well. So how about you, have any other brothers, sisters?
Yes, I have two younger brothers. My younger brother Hamza, he's 17, he just turned 17.
MashaAllah.
And Hassan is special needs, my favorite brother. I apologize to Hamza. But Hassan is about 15 now, I think. I'm sorry,
MashaAllah.
I don't remember, but yeah, 15, yeah.
MashaAllah. Nice. So it's the three of you, alhamdulillah, three brothers, and great, alhamdulillah. So currently at 20 years of age, mashallah, you've already established something called Malaikah Foundation, Aid, Malaikah for Women. These are the current three projects that you are working on,
Yes.
right? When did you start? How did you start? Why did you start?
Okay, well, I'll try to summarize this in the best way I can. But ever since I was young, my father has always made it very clear to me how committed he is in the care of my younger brother, Hassan. Right? Hassan is a special needs child. His deficiency, I think it's, again, don't quote me, but I think it's some deficiency of a protein, genetic deficiency that he has. And because of that, his mental age is behind his physical age. And his physical age now, he's about 15 years old, but mentally he's in about 4 or 5 years old, but he's very smart. And
MashaAllah.
I've watched him grow up over the last couple of years, and I've watched him understand the world around him, and I've seen his social awareness, spatial awareness, and just the way he thinks develop, get better and better and better over and over. So it's always been very fascinating to me how someone like him can be socially aware enough to make jokes, and socially aware enough to know when not to talk, and when he's pushing buttons on purpose just to see if he can get something or get something out of somebody. These things happen with maturity, and I'm watching a special needs child mature. So it's very fascinating to see how a brain like his develops over time. So as I was a bit younger, about 15, 16 years old, I do recall one specific conversation I had with an individual. I think it was over the phone or over FaceTime, where I was mentioning to them on how I wanted to implement some sort of structure for special needs children in the future where I can feel like they have a voice. Because in my mind I was thinking I have to understand my youngest brother by looking and trying to feel what he's trying to tell me, because he can't verbally tell me. He can't say I want to eat. I have to understand what he's saying without him saying a word. I don't really think you'll be able to grasp the concept of that, but after being around it for so long you can pick up on things and know what he's trying to say. But because of that, I wanted to be the voice in a way for those that can't speak, if that makes sense. I hope what I'm saying makes sense to you. But aside from that, that was just kind of where the idea stemmed. Fast forward up until 2021, I'm pretty sure. I'm not quite sure about the date specifically, but in 2021, I remember I got on the phone with a good friend of mine. His name's Shamir Mammon, my vice president, and we were very alike in a lot of ways. I think one thing that kind of brought me towards him was his sense of ambition. He was a very ambitious guy, and after having a conversation with him, I understood that this is someone that I can have that kind of understands the way my brain works, right? There's not many people that understand ambition. Some people are very comfortable in their present surroundings and their present situation, and they're not very focused on what to do next. Shamir is somebody that's focused on what to do next. So I got on the phone with him. Another good friend of mine, Hamza Saeed, who's my director of operations. And we all got on the phone together and we're like, okay, we're going to do this. We want to provide respite care. Respite care is relief care for the families of special needs children, but providing volunteer care towards the child itself. So the respite relief is for the child and the family, but what the family gets is they get a break. They get a break away from the child because, of course, working with a special needs child is difficult. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And from personal experience, it gets very exhausting at times.
Right.
So what our volunteers do at our events, we have volunteers come in and they work with the children themselves while the families get a little break. So this was the general idea that I presented to Shamir and Hamza. And I remember it was an idea at first, and I had contacted another one of my good friends, Fahad Ahmed. All of us sat together and we started the idea of angel investors. We were considering, again, I understand it's a financial term as well, but at that point, that was our goal, right? And angels were the children, and we were investing our time into them. So what we were going to do is that we were going to allocate the volunteers, and we were going to go to various special needs advocacy organizations around us and say, hey, we have these groups of volunteers that are willing to get trained. If you can train them under your training program, can we brand your event with our brand? Whatever it was, that was going to be our plan. We went around in circles for a little bit, about a year and a half, where we knew what we wanted to do, but we just weren't sure how we were going to do it. And slowly, as time went on, we grew up. And with that, we understood our religion a little bit better. We understood how important religion was to us. Mm-hmm. And our iman, it grew a little bit. And of course, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, I can say that the Muslim I try to be now is because of that iman growing over that time. And when we all sat down at the end of the year last year, in 2022, mm-hmm. we looked at each other and we were like, okay, we need to get this set in stone. We need to make sure this happens the way we want it to happen and on the time we want it to. And in order to accomplish that goal, we realized, okay, let's bring our religion into the special needs children. And with that, we started our Islamic advocacy programs where we were like, we're going to advocate for our religion and talk about why special needs children are important to us, but also talk about why we look at special needs children the way we do. What we see is so beautiful in special needs children. To keep it short, when you look at a special needs child, you realize how much you're taking for granted. You realize that there's so much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, there's so much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us that we really don't pay attention to, whether it be our vision, whether it be our ears. You know, whatever it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to have that, but the special needs children don't. What's the difference between them and I? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow me to have this life? So when you look at them and we're able to provide them with whatever care it may be, in the small amount of care we give them, you make their entire world a happier place, because they sit there and they finally feel like they're like you. One thing about Hassan is the best way I can connect with him is I treat him like he's my friend. I treat him like he's just simply a person just like me, when even he knows that he's different. He's acknowledged that fact. So when I have a conversation with him and I'm talking to him like I'm talking to one of my friends, right? He sits there and he actually pays attention, because you'll see him shake his head, you'll see him be quiet, you know, he understands. So these small things are what we're trying to show people by working with special needs children, but you have to think like that. That mindset comes from Islam, and that's our Islamic advocacy as well. So alhamdulillah, this is just the general picture of our organization and how exactly it came to be and where we are now.
Nice, mashallah, so happy to hear that. So that's great, Ammar, mashallah. I'm so happy to hear a little bit about the background and how you were able to start something that's meaningful to you, as well as giving back to the society in general, because I see that you have a good mix of providing for special needs as well as incorporating Islam. And then, mashallah, not just incorporating Islam with your personal experiences, but also provide and become an advocate for Islamic awareness as well.
Exactly.
Right?
100%.
And how is it that you are able to, or what is it that you have been doing, or what you have accomplished up until now? If I were to ask you, what are your 3 main goals and objectives in Malaikah Foundation? Or if there's 1 or 2, what is the main objective?
Okay. Well, our general idea, our mission, our purpose is we want to create a global support system for every special needs child on the planet, right?
Great.
And of course, that's a not a tangible goal, but of course that's what we want to see. That's hopefully, inshallah, 20 years down the line, there's going to be 1,000 Malaikas, and all of them will be able to accomplish what we've set out to do, right?
Great.
But our initial phase is this year. What this year was for us is that we had established ourselves and established our initiatives throughout our community, right? So we've introduced a lot. We started off with Malaikah Refresh, which was a small little podcast we were doing just to get people talking, get people interested, and get people intrigued on who are these people, why are they talking about Islam, and get it on everybody's social media pages. So that gained our follower base. After that, we stepped into the respite care area when we went to ICNA convention. Alhamdulillah, we were invited to the ICNA convention, in which we provided that respite care to their convention goers. And there were a couple of articles written on that. I don't know if maybe we can get it on there, whatever it is. Aside from that,
so ICNA convention, you were able to. ICNA convention is actually a pretty major convention here in the United States. I think it attracts close to 40,000 or more?
I think it was 45 this year.
45,000, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah.
And what did you do? You provided for the entire convention?
Yes. So for the entire convention, the entire weekend, it was Saturday night, Sunday night, and basically throughout the day, I don't remember the exact specifics anymore. I think it was from 12 p.m. to I think it was 11 p.m., whatever the timings were. We had a staff of fully trained registered behavioral technicians. These are legal employees that are registered to work with special needs children. We hired a full-time for the entire weekend supervisor, LCSW, that is trained to clinically diagnose and work with special needs children.
Wow.
And we hired all them, we interviewed them, we got them all on board, we put all Malaikah t-shirts on them, and then we put them in there. We registered all the kids, got them to sign all the liability waivers. We made sure we facilitated all the information, the direct contacts.
So basically you were able to take care of the entire special needs department for a major national convention such as ICNA, mashallah. And this was all done by a couple of youth, and who's your, who were the main people behind it?
So we have 6 people on our team, alhamdulillah. I mean, I could list their names. I don't want to make it.
So is that is that like your board, or is
that's
that
my
your
core team, my operations team?
So it consists of 6 people.
Yes.
And who are they all like your age?
Yes, they're all my age. We have for Imam Furqan, I think it's about 25. I think 20, I don't know how old he is.
So everybody's pretty much 25 and under.
Yeah, it's about 25 and under. Yeah.
Wow, mashallah. So a group of young guys, all under 25, mashallah, around 20s, and was able to provide the respite care for a major national organization, which attracted about 45,000 this year, mashallah. That's an accomplishment.
Alhamdulillah.
How were you able to pull that off?
That's a good question. I don't know, man. I have no idea, but I think it was a dedication. My team really showed a lot of relentless effort. I think there are moments where a lot of us needed a lot of uplifting. I think there were moments where because we had just started our organization as well in January, and in about end of April is when we got the call when I think they had heard about our organization, and they wanted to introduce themselves to us and talk about their convention and see if they wanted us to go in there and do the respite care. And usually I think Ummah organization, Mohsin, does it, but I think they wanted to try something new this year, and alhamdulillah we've been able to say that we're committed to doing this on a regular basis as well. But aside from that, it was a process. It was a learning experience, and we had a lot of ups and downs. We had hired people, and then 2 weeks before the convention itself, I remember I had left for a trip, and then we lost everybody we hired. Everybody. Wow. They had something was wrong with the contract. They didn't like stuff, and except for the supervisor, everybody else was gone. So we had to hire.
Was this 2 weeks before?
Yeah, not even. I think it was about a week before. I was in Miami with my friends.
That must have been
it was
hectic.
Like I had to. My friends were upset at me because I was like, I can't go anywhere. I have to make sure I get this done. I was going on Indeed and hiring people and interviewing them and Zoom calls, and alhamdulillah, it worked out. It worked out.
I think it must have been easily night and day, all-nighters, subhanAllah.
Oh man, it was
going days
tough.
without sleep, and
But it was worth it.
alhamdulillah.
It was worth it. It was
Of course,
100% worth it.
I mean, at the end of the day, truly, what gives us that contentment, a lot of times in our life, in fact, every single person, every single day steps out of their homes to search for peace, contentment, and sukoon, and itmanan al-qalb. And what we learn from our religion, what we learn from the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the peace of mind and contentment of the heart truly comes when you give back, when you serve others, and especially tiring yourself out to a point that, subhanAllah, completely exhausting yourself at the end of the day or at the end of the convention, when you probably got back home, the feeling that you must have felt, that relief, that happiness, that, subhanAllah, that accomplishment,
Alhamdulillah.
it must have been out of the world.
Alhamdulillah.
Right?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
It was something different.
And to experience this at this young age, it's good in a way that, subhanAllah, you've done something that you were able to accomplish, and then now that that sukoon and contentment and the purpose of life. At the end of the day, the objective and the purpose of life is to give back and to serve. And I'm sure that inshallah you'll continue to do this every year, plus add much more by giving back to the community. We're looking forward to that, inshallah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to. One thing you said, mashallah, is it's beautiful. It's giving back. For some reason, I've watched a lot of people around me not understand the concept of what we do take for granted, right? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, I've been able to live a certain life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted me, right? But all of this is nothing compared to what our afterlife is going to look like, correct? What the future is going to look like. And because of that, it's almost as if, because everybody's so focused on what they want to do tonight or at the party this weekend, they're not worried about what happens once you get to a later point in your life and none of this matters anymore. And you realize that, hey, I have a child, I have a family to support. This is not going to support me. I need to get rid of this. And then when they do get rid of it, and they start to realize that the things that they were told to prioritize when they were younger and they didn't, actually is what they have to learn then. So alhamdulillah, I think what Malaikah can do is that we can invite people to learn now. Learn now what's really important. Learn now what really matters. And once you learn what really is important in this world, you take away everything and all the noise from the outside and all the trauma that's all around us. As soon as you're able to remove that from you because your religion tells you to do so, or because something else that's more important in this life or for your akhirah tells you to do so, then that's what life truly is worth it.
I love the part that how you are incorporating religion and our faith in Islam into all of this as well. You have your personal experience, you have the upbringing and tarbiyah, but at the same time, you've mentioned many times that our faith and our religion, and subhanAllah, you also mentioned in the beginning that advocacy for the youth and for our faith in general. How and where are you bringing that, and the source of information, and how are you tying that up, mashallah? It's beautiful how, subhanAllah, you're incorporating that. And what are you doing in general for the youth and for youngsters like yourself around you who may not have a similar experience and maybe they cannot relate to your personal experience? What are you doing for them, and how are you incorporating that?
So I'll tell you one thing.
Right.
There's a certain stigma around the community that the kids my age, you can say, that talking about religion is just a little bit weird. You know, it's not
true.
It's not trendy. It's not cool, right? What's cool around us? Okay, yeah, we're gonna go out. We're gonna get drunk. We're gonna go and do the drugs. We're gonna go and get with whoever. We're gonna go and do the things that are important in our culture. But that's not what our principles tell us, right? So when you ask me, what do you do to invite everyone to maybe pay attention, but what if they don't understand your own personal experience? I'd like to invite them to ask this question to themselves: in what is important to you? What is important to your principles rather than what's important to your friends, if that makes sense, right? Because of that, when you contemplate that and you realize that you're starting to do everything for everyone else around you, that's where the problem starts, right? Because when you realize you're not really living for who you want to be, you're living for so that everybody else can be okay with who you are, that just kind of makes you feel a bit insecure. Then who actually is my friend, right? Who actually really cares about me? Then what the masjid does, Imam Sahib, is that the masjid comes in and they says, okay, bet, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you a community of individuals that were lost at one point in their life and found God. You know, that's a story as well. That's something that doesn't get discussed, right? That's what we discuss. We discuss not what to do when you found God. It's how do you find God in the first place? And then we ask people such as yourself, or we ask people like my dad, we ask people like Taminati, we say, how did you find God? You know, how did you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life, and where does He fit in your life? Where does He click in your life?
Beautiful.
Where do you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do you remember Allah when you really want something to happen? Think about that for a second, right? Why do you remember God when you really want something to happen? Why do you remember God when you're afraid something's gonna happen to you? That's when you want to remember God, but not when things are actually fine. You don't want to remember God then? That's what we're simply trying to do, is that when things are okay, think about God. Maybe the best is gonna get even better, if that makes sense.
Right. MashaAllah. No, that's beautiful. So tell me a little bit about Malaikah in terms of youth. What's the strength? Do you have a membership? What is it? Is it like a group? How many events? Or tell me the strength of how many youth are with you, the events or membership.
So right now we have about 45 registered volunteers. Volunteers that are registered under us, phone numbers, emails, addresses, masjid near them, all of that. 45 listed out for us. We have about 150 girls in the Malaikah for Women group chat that we have a separate subsidiary organization that runs under us. We facilitate the finances and they do the operations of it. And they have about 150 girls in that group chat as well. They're in constant communication, just sisters trying to help sisters, right? And one thing that Malaikah Foundation currently just recently introduced is Malaikah Aid, which is in partnership with a Helping Hand as well as ISGH and Ummah Foundation. Those are humanitarian relief where we want to provide tangible items such as our merchandise, as well as just maybe new clothes that you have that we will have organized clothing drive for, in which you would donate your clothes and we'd have them distributed on the ground from our teams in various international areas as well. So that's a lot of youth is involved in those various different initiatives. Nice. And then our public speaking events, we have masjid communities come out and we introduce ourselves again.
Nice, mashallah. I think that's a pretty good overview that you gave. So you have Malaikah Foundation, and you have Malaikah for Women, and then you have Malaikah Aid, mashallah. And I'm just blown away and impressed by, mashallah, the great work that you're doing. All I can say is may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the strength to continue to do what you've been doing. And subhanAllah, you're so young right now and you've done so much, mashallah. I'm sure there's much more in you, inshallah, and we will see so much more in the coming years. To conclude, tell us where you get the inspiration from, what keeps you going every single day, and then I'll ask you for final remarks and advice.
Okay,
your inspiration and what keeps you going?
What is my inspiration? That's a good question. I think I have many inspirations in my life. I think my biggest inspiration is my family. I think the family that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again has allowed me to have, it's truly fascinating, and I can never thank Allah enough for the family that He's allowed me to have, and how the way that they inspire me, and the way that my mother and her resilience, and the dedication that my father has to his work, and just trying to be something in this world. It's truly inspiring to see. So because of that, I think, I'm not trying to get emotional or sentimental, but I think I had two brothers, a brother and a sister in the past, Ammar and Sana, who are not here anymore. And even before Ammar, it was Abdullah, that was a failed pregnancy as well, that essentially I had my parents were trying to have 3 children already, and they did not have them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them those children. But they had me, Hamza, and Hassan. And I think about that sometimes, and me being the eldest as well, it's really insane how that was what they expected. You know, at that point in time when Abdullah was going to be born, or Ammar was born, or Sana was born, that's who they thought that they were going to have for the rest of their lives. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a different plan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew I was going to be here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent me here for a reason. If Ammar, Sana, and Abdullah were alive, I would not be here. I would not be alive. My parents would have already had 3 children, right? So think about it. If it wasn't for the death of Ammar and Sana, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them high Jannatul Firdaus, Ummah Studios Foundation, my father's organization, would not have been alive.
Yeah.
Right? Would not have been here. And
that's why, subhanAllah, it leads us to, you know, and we plan and Allah plans.
Exactly.
And Allah is the best of plans.
Exactly. And it's truly, it's I can never wrap my head around that fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew the whole time when my father buried his daughter, when my father buried his son, and he was sitting there. You don't think my father was sitting there and asking himself, why? Why? Right? You don't think he was asking himself at whatever age it was, 23, 24, whatever, late 20s, you don't think he was asking himself, why is this happening to me? What did I do? Right? There's a joke, a small joke in our family as well, right? Where one of the my mother has 6 other sisters. So one of the sisters, one of my grandmothers, if that makes sense, like family members, she always says that she didn't make dua for me. Right? She didn't. She never made dua for me, and it's always a joke. I always tell her, "Kabhi mere dua nahi mangi." But the thing is that the fact of the matter is that because of the deaths that had already happened, the reason why they did not make dua is because they had made dua before.
SubhanAllah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So if everything went to plan then, I wouldn't be alive. And because I was given life, because I was allowed to live, because Ammar and Sana passed away, Ummah Studios Foundation was here. Because of that, I'm alive. Now Malaikah Foundation, inshallah, can be something. If I wasn't here, if Ammar and Sana and Abdullah were alive, Hassan would not have been born. Special needs children would have never been a part of my father's life.
SubhanAllah.
But Hassan is the youngest. And now because of Hassan, my father has devoted himself to special needs care. And so have I.
And so have you. SubhanAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
Beautiful. No, that's a beautiful journey and a beautiful inspiration. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and protect you and your family. So to conclude, what is an advice that you can give or to youngsters?
Advice I can give to youngsters. Well, I'm young myself.
Find meaning, purpose in life.
Well, number one thing, I'm young myself, so I'm still very bound to make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I'm still a human being. I try my hardest every single day to be the best I can. But again, I'm not the person you'd want to take advice from, and nothing I've done so far, I truly don't think it deserves any type of acknowledgement. Alhamdulillah, I have somebody like Imam Tauqeer to sit here and tell me I'm doing the right thing, but ultimately only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows my intention. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows if I'm truly doing the right thing. And aside from that, an advice I could give to maybe individuals like myself who maybe is listening to this and wants to hear someone just like them tell them something, I think it just be, don't rush. I think one thing I do is that I'm always on go mode. I'm always ready to do the next thing. I'm always thinking about what's next. I'm always planning 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. I never allow myself to truly sit down and acknowledge and take things in and be in the present moment. I never truly celebrate anything, right? Because to me, it's almost as if the fear of not having it in the future just gives me so much anxiety that I just can never sit still, right? But I think my advice would be is to try to stay away from that, right? Although you can see something established in yourself and you may think that maybe this does hold some value, it's a process, it's stress, and there are many politics in this world. So take your time, don't rush, live your life, make mistakes. I promise you, you're a human being. Nothing really is crazy is going to happen to you. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you to wake up the next day, that means you did do something right. So keep trying, keep going, and inshallah, hopefully one day I get to be like someone like him.
No, Jazakallah khair. And this concludes our episode for tonight. I'm so happy, and it's been my pleasure to have Ammar
Thank
on the
you,
show
man.
today
I really appreciate
and to talk
this.
about this. And I hope to see many youngsters who will dedicate their effort and their energy in giving back to the community, serving others, and not just what is within their capacity or what is important to them, but also extending beyond that as well and reaching out to other youngsters, so that other youngsters, other youth such as yourself can also find a meaning and purpose in life. And I think that he's done a great job, and subhanAllah, I commend the parents of Ammar. Truly, he is a sadaqah jariyah for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, and thank you for Ammar for being here.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for, if you've watched or if you listened, whatever it is, thank you guys for paying so much attention. I really appreciate it. Imam Tauqeer is almost like a role model to me. I hope everything I've said has been cohesive and you've understood. I know I have a tendency to just say things sometimes and hope something sticks, something makes sense. But alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair, Imam Tauqeer, for having me.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate this, and inshallah, I just shouldn't be the last time we do this. We should do this more often.
Inshallah, absolutely we will, inshallah.
All right, inshallah, take care. Assalamu
Jazakallah khair, barakallah feek, assalamu alaikum.